What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Wake and Jake College Football Show. As you can see, I am not in my normal location. I am currently out of town. So, heads up, Wi-Fi is a little iffy, so I will do my best to get this out at its normal time. But if it is a little late, I do apologize. Again, Wi-Fi is iffy. I am traveling. It's just the nature of the game. But still putting out a show. Still going to do my best with the resources that I have. But yeah, typical episode today, recapping week five, getting into some news because there is some to actually touch on this week. Um, you know, not, coming off of a weekend of football, we don't always have news to touch on, but we do this week. But yeah, recapping games. Unfortunately, we will recap my betting, which I'm debating right now on whether or not to put myself on a 1 week suspension. So keep that in mind. I may be suspended this week. And then finishing off with my favorite segment, and I think everybody's favorite segment, Dude, Are You High? So yeah, that is what to expect today. Pretty typical episode, so let's not waste any more time and let's have a great wake and bake sesh. All right, starting with some news. Sam Pittman's out at Arkansas, which, let's be honest, we all knew it was coming. Um, we all thought it was going to happen last year, if we're going to be completely honest. It didn't, so then we just knew it was going to happen at some point this year. It was just a matter of when. Um, and it happened. It officially happened. Sucks, but I mean, it is what it is. Again, we all saw it coming. The funniest part, and it's never funny when somebody gets fired or loses their job, but there is something funny that we can take out of this. And for those who don't remember, let me give you some background. Bobby Petrino is now going to be the at least interim head coach, and his name is going to be in the running for to take over as the official head coach after the season. Why is that funny? For those who don't remember, Bobby Petrino has already been the head coach at Arkansas in the past. And again, for those who don't remember, it did not end well at Arkansas. There was a motorcycle accident that he was involved in. He came out and said he was the only one on the motorcycle. Well, then the police report comes out, and turns out there was another person on the motorcycle with him. It was I don't exactly remember her job, but she was involved with the football program. He had this relationship with her. She was like in her 20s. He was in his late 40s. He tried to hide it, from people. He was involved in the hiring process of her, and she never would have been hired had he not been involved in the hiring process, and he wasn't supposed to be. And it was all of these lies came out and were exposed after this motorcycle accident that he was involved in and she also was involved in. And he was let go. And everybody remembers that press conference when he's got the neck brace on and everything. So for him to not only get hired at Arkansas as the offensive coordinator, but to now be the head coach again is just too funny for me. And I think it's funny for a lot of people. But um, that was, geez, 15 years ago now almost. I mean, a lot has changed. He's a different man now. Uh, maybe we'll see. But him being the head coach is just too funny to me. Todd Grantham is out at defensive coordinator for Oklahoma State, and honestly, again, it's never great when somebody loses their job. It's not a laughing matter. Can't really make light of it, and I feel bad saying this, but at the same time, what an absolute great gig for Todd Grantham. He's hired in December on a 3-year, $4.2 million contract. He works for 9 to 10 months, gets fired, gets the full $4.2 million, and now he gets to relax for at least the next 2 months, if not longer, if he chooses to. I mean, what a gig. I think most of us would sign up to work 9 to 10 months and get paid $4.2 million and then have 2 months off to just do whatever. Now, I mean, he's a football guy. He probably would rather be coaching, but all in all, not the worst thing in the world to get 4.2 million for 9 months of work. And then, I mean, we're going to kind of touch on this a little bit later with at least one team, but the AP poll, it feels like it's been under fire a lot more this year than it usually is, and rightfully so, in my opinion, because a lot of these and again, not always their fault, but a lot of these voters don't watch enough college football to be voting on this. The fact that Arizona State is ranked, I think they came in at 25, but the fact that they're ranked and Mississippi State is not, but they have the exact same record, and Arizona State lost a head-to-head matchup against Mississippi State is just absolutely egregious that they are ranked ahead of Mississippi State. Um, Vandy comes in at 16, and I think that's incorrect as well. I think Vanderbilt deserves to be. They deserve to be top 12, if not top 10. They beat Virginia Tech on the road. They beat South Carolina on the road. They've absolutely dominated every other team they faced. There's no reason why they shouldn't be top 10, in my opinion. And you could argue, why are teams like Texas or Penn State, you know, even Alabama, even though Alabama has, we'll get into it, has a win against Georgia, why are they all ranked ahead of Vanderbilt? They shouldn't be, in my opinion, because they have not played anybody, and then when they did play somebody, they lost. So AP polls, AP polls has some issues, and it needs to be fixed. All right, enough bitching about the AP poll. Let's get into some games. We'll start with Friday night games. Florida State, number 8 team in the nation, losing to Virginia in double overtime, 46-38. Guys, Virginia might be good. Not great, but good. They might be good. They are going to go bowling. I'm saying it right now. They're gonna go bowling because I even said at the beginning of this season, if there was ever a time for them to make a bowl game under Tony Elliott, it is this year because it is a do or die year for Tony Elliott. And this schedule looked very manageable at the beginning of the season, and so far through 5 weeks, it still looks pretty manageable. So I'm calling it right now. Virginia is going bowling. Tony Elliott is keeping his job. Now, if you're a Virginia fan, you may not like to hear that. There's some of you who are probably like, no, we want Tony Elliott gone, and Virginia making a bowl game does not help that. Who knows? Maybe this is a turnaround for Tony Elliott, and maybe he sticks around for another 5 years, and Virginia is a good team moving forward. I don't know. But shout out to them. It's always good to see when a team has just been terrible for years to, start to turn it around and start to win. Um, I mean, both teams were absolutely sloppy in this game, especially in that first half. Both turned the ball over twice. Both teams capitalized on said turnovers. But outside of those turnovers, both offenses were moving the ball pretty well. Um, Deuce Robinson for Florida State has just got to be kicking himself. He had a great game, 9 receptions, 147 yards, but he had one of the worst drops in overtime. Castellanos threw a beautiful ball, and he caught it right on the goal line and then proceeded to bobble it for the next 10 yards and then went out of the back of the end zone, still not having control of that ball. It's almost impressive, the fact that he was able to bobble it for so long without getting hit, and also not able to gain possession until he stepped out of bounds. Just absolutely insane. One he wishes he could have back. One Florida State fans wish they could have back. It's unfortunate they did lose. And for those of you who didn't see the storming of the field by Virginia, one of the quickest field stormings I've ever seen in my life. The students were just all lined up around the field essentially, and as soon as Thomas Castellanos threw that interception on I think it was fourth down, in double overtime, they were on the field within like 5 seconds. Yeah, absolutely insane. We also had number 24 TCU taking on Arizona State. Arizona State comes away with a 27-24 win. Shout out to Arizona State, guys. TCU got out to a 17 to nothing lead, and Arizona State fought back. So shout out to them for that. They tied it up with 24 with just under 2 minutes left. And on the very next drive, Josh Hoover gets sacked, fumbles the ball, and Arizona State recovers it with a very short field. They then take a 3-point lead. And then and I think it was like 2 plays for TCU on the next drive and threw an interception, and that's game over. In this game, TCU had 13 total drives on offense, and they got over half of their yards in just the first 4 drives of the game. So shout out to Arizona State's defense for absolutely stepping up in this one. They may have gotten off to a slow start, but they stepped up and shut down TCU's offense, and that's two straight games of shutting down. Probably, you could argue, I would say Sawyer Robinson's probably the best quarterback in the Big 12. Josh Hoover's up there, though. So for them to shut down two of the top QBs in the conference, impressive. And their one loss so far this year is to Mississippi State, who turns out is a very good team. So Arizona State is 4-1, and they're still a very good team this year. Houston 27, Oregon State 24 in overtime. I mean, Houston almost lost this one, clearly, if it went to overtime. Offense struggled to get anything going pretty much the whole game, which is a little concerning because Oregon State's defense has not been good at all. A ton of three and outs, but they were able to score two touchdowns in the final 6 minutes of the game to tie it, and then take it to overtime and eventually, win the game. Yeah, shout out to Oregon State's defense for playing better than they have all season, essentially. Uh, if if Oregon State had a kicker that could actually make a 40-plus yard field goal, we would be having a different conversation. I looked at it. One of their kickers, they had two different kickers in this game. One of their kickers all season is like 0 of 3 or 4 in 40 to 49 yards. Just can cannot hit those for whatever reason. And if he was able to even hit one of them, or I guess they had two kickers try to do it, but if any of those kickers are able to hit one of those, Oregon State wins this game. Now, I said it going into this week that if Houston, I didn't say if, I said when Houston wins this game, and thank God they did because I would have looked so stupid. I want them, I'm not saying they have to be ranked, but I was saying that they should at least receive votes to be ranked from the AP poll. And they did not receive a single vote this week. This is the last negative thing I'll say about the AP poll. But the fact that Houston is 4-0 and has not received a single vote to be in the top 25 is just egregious. I'm not saying they have to be top 25, but to just receive one vote. Just one vote. Give them some credit. All right, noon games on Saturday. We'll start with Minnesota and Rutgers. Minnesota comes away with a 31-28 win. I mean, guys, Drake Lindsay is the real deal. I've been saying it, thought it before the season that he has the potential to be. After the first game, it was like, okay, the hype is real. Let's see if it can continue, and it's continued. 31 of 41, 324 yards and 3 touchdowns. Had some absolutely beautiful throws in this game. Completions to 9 different receivers, or tight ends, running backs, and receivers. Just the ability to spread the ball around. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. He's Max Brosmer, but with more physical ability than Max Brosmer. Has a stronger arm, all of that, but he is Max Brosmer, and I absolutely love it. Now, run game is a little concerning. Darius Taylor needs to come back ASAP. And I would think, who knows, but I would think he's probably back for the Ohio State game, if not the week after. I can't imagine he's out much longer, but they need him to come back ASAP because Davis and Ijiboy combined for 15 carries, 45 yards, which is not good. Just when Darius Taylor's not there, the run game struggles. Defensively for Minnesota, I go back and forth on whether or not this was a good performance by them because they did have 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, and 1 turnover, which is fantastic when you see those numbers. They also held Ethan Kaligmanis, who is having a career year, to a season low of 249 yards passing. But Antoine Raymond, I believe, was able to gash them for 160 plus yards at just over 6 yards a pop. And they did allow Rutgers to score 28 points. So I go back and forth. It was a good performance, but there was some things that could be worked on. But in the end, great win for the Gophers, and I am back to feeling very confident in my future of the Gophers winning over 6.5 games. 21 USC at 23 Illinois. Illinois comes away with a 34-32 win. I was getting worried going into this week, just based on how USC has played, that USC was going to be this year's Ole Miss or Mizzou for me, where their record is better than what I think the team should actually be. And that concern is lessened because USC is not a Big Ten team. It's the same thing, different year. Great offense for USC, terrible defense, and looking at the rest of the schedule, I see at least 3 losses moving forward. So I do feel a little more comfortable that USC is not going to be the fourth or fifth best team in the Big Ten. Um, we did see Illinois just get absolutely throttled offensively and defensively against Indiana. Now, USC was able to move the ball quite effectively against this Illinois defense, but USC's defense allowed Illinois to go for over 500 yards of offense, 8 yards per play, 7 of 11 on third and fourth down, and 34 points. That's terrible. Um, I was worried going into this week. I'm no longer worried. USC, they're a good team, but they're not a top 5 team in the Big Ten. Number 22, Notre Dame at Arkansas. My goodness, an absolutely butt whooping. Notre Dame 56, Arkansas 13. And this result was a little shocking because this is exactly what I expected from Notre Dame's offense. I figured they were going to score 50 plus. The fact that their team total was at 34.5 was laughable in my opinion, just because of how terrible Arkansas's defense has been. But for Arkansas to just come away with 13 points only, that's impressive for Notre Dame at least, just because that Arkansas offense is good. And when you actually break down this game, Arkansas had 10 total drives in this game, 6 of them crossed midfield. So they got into Notre Dame territory 60% of the time they had the ball. And they only came away with 13 points. They were just unable to finish drives. And, I mean, whether it was a turnover, turning it over on downs, whatever, they just could not capitalize. Now, I did not think Arkansas was going to win this game. I didn't even think that they were going to cover. I think it was 4.5. I did expect them to score more than 13. So shout out to Notre Dame for that one, for holding them to only 13. But I would say, trend moving forward, and when I said this last week about a team, turned out to be completely wrong heading into this week. But any team playing Arkansas, maybe look at the team total over in those games. Oh, this one hurt. Louisville 34, Pitt 27. I mean, and maybe this is a little, maybe I'm being a little over the top on this, but I do think if they play this game again, Pitt comes away with the win. They were up 27-17 at halftime, and then could not do anything in the second half. They had 90 total yards in the second half and 3 interceptions. Just absolutely brutal showing. And overall in the game, 2 of 14 on third and fourth down, 5 turnovers. And they lost the time of possession like 39 and change to 20 and change. Like, just brutal showing. For them to be up 27-17 at half and then do nothing that second half just hurts even more. Just too many self-inflicted wounds in this one to come away with the win. Maybe it's too far-fetched for me to say, but I really do think if they played this game again, Pitt comes away with the win. All right, moving on to afternoon games. Number 1, Ohio State at Washington. Washington had a 22-game home winning streak going into this one, and it ended. Ohio State comes away with a 24-6 win. Shout out to Julian Sayin for going on the road and beating a team that I mentioned had won 22 straight games. And shout out to Ohio State's defense, because this Washington offense had been absolutely dominant all year so far, and they were absolutely stifled in this one. 2 of 14 on third and fourth down, allowed 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. And if you take away Jonah Coleman's one, I think he had a 35-yard run at one point. If you take away that one run, he was held to 36 yards at 3 yards a carry. He had one explosive run and then was shut down the rest of the game. And I mentioned shout out to Julian Sayin. I'll say it one more time. After playing average against Texas, he has absolutely exploded. This week he was 22 of 28 for 200, just over 200 yards, which just over 200 yards is not that impressive, I guess. But you are on the road. like I mentioned, against a team that had won 22 straight games at home. Threw for 2 touchdowns, completed, I don't know what that percentage comes out to be, enough percentage of your passes. Only had 6 incompletions. Uh, Ohio State's just really good. And I know that's not a shock to anybody. They are the defending national champions. But Ohio State is just so good this year. Moving on to a team that is not as good as their ranking was going into the weekend. Number 4, LSU at number 13, Ole Miss. Ole Miss comes away with the win, 24-19. And there's 2 things that I said going into this game. Depending on who the starter is for Ole Miss, you know, depends on how confident I am that they win this game. If it's Austin Simmons, I'm not confident. If it's Trinidad Chambliss, I am pretty confident in Ole Miss. And then the other thing was, if LSU can get any semblance of a run game going, they will win this game because Ole Miss has been just god awful at stopping the run. And what happened in this game? Chambliss started. LSU could not run the ball. LSU lost. That's just a recipe for them losing. But it's actually shocking just how bad LSU is at running the ball. It's, again, especially against a team that has not been able to stop the run all year. You would think that, okay, maybe some of these other teams have been good at stopping the run, so that's why, yada yada. Ole Miss is terrible, so they should be able to get something going. They got nothing going in the run game. This offense for LSU is brutal. Yeah, some would say it's broken, honestly. 4 of 13 on third and fourth down, 256 yards of total offense. I am never high on Lane Kiffin teams. Feels like chokes at some point, one way or another, at some point in the season. They also are a team that will overhaul their roster, with transfers, and I don't always love that. They have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs this year. I'm still not convinced, but they have, after watching this game, they have a much better shot than I thought going into this week. Auburn at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is the number 9 team in the nation. Auburn is unranked. Texas A&M comes away with a 16-10 win. Now, 16-10 doesn't seem that impressive, but really, this was an absolute dominating win from Texas A&M. And it begs the question: is Hugh Freeze gone? Is this? I'm not going to say that this is the last we see of Hugh Freeze because I do think he might finish out the season depending on how bad it starts to get. But I think we might see Hugh Freeze gone, especially since offense is his specialty, and the offense has had so many issues. Auburn's defense is pretty good, but their offense just, it's been brutal. 0 of 15, I'll say that again, 0 of 15 on third and fourth down. That's terrible. I've been going, here's the thing, here's a trend this week. There's a lot of offenses that I'm going to discuss this week that were terrible at converting on third and fourth down. This is by far the worst. To be 0 of 15 is just brutal. Less than 200 yards of total offense, just barely over 3 yards per play. They allowed 5 sacks, and their only touchdown drive was 1 play, 2 yards. They could not move the ball. They are lucky they even scored a touchdown, honestly, in this one. And I really do think that this loss to Texas A&M and the loss to Oklahoma, yes, based on the AP poll that just came out, Oklahoma's like the number 5 team, and I think A&M bumped up to 6. So you could argue, well, those are 2 very good losses against top 5 and 6 teams in the country. Doesn't matter. I think Hugh Freeze's fate has been sealed. I think he's gone. Now, I'm crapping all over Auburn in this one. I got to give some credit to A&M. Their 3 running backs combined to go for 233 yards and like 6.5 yards per pop. I have a future on Texas A&M making the playoffs, and after the win against Notre Dame, after this win against Auburn, and looking at the rest of their schedule, which is showing to be pretty winnable, I really like my future on A&M making the playoffs right about now. This next one I'm not going to discuss very much on. Number 11, Indiana at Iowa. Indiana comes away with a 20-15 win. I mean, it's the same story, different year. Iowa's defense, which has been this year, has been fine. Absolutely shut down Indiana's high-flying offense. And then again, same thing, different year. Iowa's offense could not get anything going. Just overall, kind of an ugly game. Uh, it also felt like a game that you never really thought Indiana was going to lose. I don't really have much to say about this game because the score is much closer, it feels like, than it actually was. Uh, Number 15, Tennessee at Mississippi State, who deserves to be ranked. Tennessee comes away with a 41-34 win in overtime, and Tennessee dodged a major bullet here. Um, I really thought Tennessee would run all over this Mississippi State defense, and because they have that three-headed rushing attack, only one of the heads actually had success, Deshaun Bishop. The other two of that three-headed rushing attack were completely shut down. So was not as dominant of a win as I thought it would be for Tennessee. And this was kind of a weird game. It really was. Because turnovers were absolutely killer for both sides. I think both sides had at least 3 turnovers. I think Joey Aguilar threw for 2 interceptions. There was a fumble. So Tennessee had 3. Mississippi State had 2 or 3. I don't remember off the top of my head. But of those turnovers that Mississippi State had, 2 turnovers were returned for touchdowns, a fumble recovery and an interception. So that helped tremendously for Tennessee. Um, and then Tennessee turned the ball over 3 times, which gave Mississippi State short fields on all 3 turnovers, and they were able to take advantage of those, which good teams do. So weirdly, even though this was a high-scoring game, and if you look at the box score, there was a lot of offense in this game. And it did go into overtime. It also was kind of a defensive battle in a weird way, just because you had so many turnovers, and Tennessee did struggle from time to time to move the ball. Um, Tennessee's lucky to come away with the win. You could argue luck had nothing to do with it. Mississippi State's just a very good team. I think they're a little lucky to come away with the win. Mississippi State, though, they are a good team. I was high on them going into this weekend. I am much higher on them coming out of this weekend, even though they did lose. Uh, Mississippi State's going bowling. I've already said it, but I'm saying it again. I'm going to reiterate that fact. Mississippi State is going bowling. Okay, moving on to evening and late night games. This next one I'm not going to touch on much, except for the fact that we can finally shut down any rumors, speculation, whatever, that Noah Fafita is good and that Arizona is good, because Arizona and Fafita are both just not good. Iowa State takes them down 39-14. I mean, Fafita played good against Weber State, fooled a lot of people because of that, and you looked at his stats, you thought, oh, he's actually not been playing bad, but then when you go and look at each game individually, he has not been good except for that one game, and that continues to be the case. Shout out to Iowa State, 5-0 on the year. You could argue they should be much higher than what they're currently ranked because they are 5-0 with 3 wins now against Power 4 teams, Iowa, Kansas State, and Arizona. So, I mean, they really should be higher than they are. I think it is a little disrespectful to not have them higher than teams like Penn State, Texas. I'm trying to think of who else is in front of them that deserves to not be. But just keep winning and you will get to where you deserve to be. Uh, Number 6, Oregon. Number 3, Penn State. This went into double overtime, and Oregon comes away with a 30-24 win. And you expect something to change at some point, but it ends up just being the same thing, different year. Penn State has a great defense, and the offense is just eh. And James Franklin's terrible against top 10 teams. It's just same story, different year. And when you watch the game, and even if you look at the box score, I think both make you feel like that Oregon State, or not Oregon State, Oregon should have won this game easier than they did. They had over 400 yards of offense. I think they had 0 turnovers in this game, 5 of 7 on fourth down. They held Penn State to less than 300 yards of offense, and they still ended up going into overtime tied at 17. Now, they did have a missed field goal earlier in the game, so I mean, you could argue they should have won the game straight up and not had to go to overtime, but also the fact that they would have only won the game 20-17 is shocking in itself. And I guess we could give a shout out to Penn State on that one for allowing Oregon to move the ball, but not enough for them to get into scoring position or to score big touchdowns. So Penn State's defense is very good. Now, it's if you are a Penn State fan watching this game, you've got to be so frustrated because Penn State didn't start playing offense until that fourth quarter. Through the first three quarters of the game, they had 104 yards of total offense, which is terrible. And in that final quarter, on just two drives, 137 yards. More yards in that fourth quarter than they had the whole game combined before that. Absolutely insane. I don't know what that was about. I don't know why when Oregon went up 17-3, that's when you decided to be aggressive and start actually playing offense. Absolutely bizarre. I'm still high on Penn State. I still think that they can make the offs, but I do think that Oregon is a much better team. I am much higher on them now than I was going into the season. And quite honestly, Oregon kind of scares me. Last game of the evening that I'm going to get in depth on. Number 17 Alabama at number 5 Georgia. Alabama comes away with a 24-21 win, and it's just so bizarre to me that Kirby Smart struggles so hard with Alabama because Nick Saban's not there anymore, and he's still struggling with Alabama. And Georgia could not stop Alabama in that first half. They scored all 24 of their points in that first half, could not score anything that second half. So I guess shout out for Georgia for finally stepping up and playing defense in that second half, but too little, too late. Um, Georgia struggled so hard on offense in this one. Run game was fine, I guess. You know, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Passing game though was terrible. Only 130 yards through the air is not ideal. They were also 2 of 9 on third and fourth down, also not ideal. And turning the ball over when you are inside Alabama's 10-yard line in the fourth quarter, also not ideal. I don't know what Kirby Smart's issue is with Bama. I'm going to keep saying that, but he just cannot get over that hump. I think his only win against Alabama is a national championship, which don't get me wrong, that's fantastic. But it is bizarre how much he struggles with Alabama. Now, moving forward for the rest of the season, I am not worried about Georgia because, again, like we mentioned, this just seems to be Kirby Smart's kryptonite. He's great against everybody else. Georgia's great against everybody else. Yes, this was a disappointing loss. I still think Georgia's in a good place moving forward. And I feels like I'm just pooping all over Georgia. So let me give some credit to Alabama on this one. Ty Simpson has been great this year. He struggled in that first game against Florida State, but ever since then he's been absolutely great. And this weekend he was 24 of 38, 276 yards and two touchdowns. I mean, we can't argue with the fact that he has turned it around after that game against FSU and has played great this year. And my concern going into the season that Alabama might have picked the wrong quarterback, I'm willing to concede that I was wrong in that one and that they did, in fact, pick the right quarterback. All right, some other notable games or scores that I just want to touch on. And I'm not going to get into super in depth into this next one, especially because we are, spoiler alert, going to be talking about this one later. But Georgia Tech comes away with an overtime win against Wake Forest, 30-29, and they are so lucky to come away with this win because Wake Forest got absolutely screwed over by the refs in this one. We will be touching on this one later. And if I wasn't such a Georgia Tech and Haynes King defender or fan, I guess you could even say, I would be on the warpath for justice for Wake Forest. Vandy, at the time, number 18, against Utah State. Vandy comes away with a 55-35 win. I mean, let's. I said I was going to stop complaining about the AP poll, but I'm going to do it one more time. Put Vandy in the top 10. Let's start showing them some respect because that's an absolute dominating game right there. And they've been dominating every team they've played, even on the road at Virginia Tech and on the road at South Carolina. They have been dominating every single team they played. In the offseason this summer, I put Diego Pavia as Dude Are You High for saying that they're here to compete for a national championship. While I still don't think they're going to compete for a national championship, they are much better than I thought they would be this season. I thought we were expecting the same, roughly the same Vanderbilt team we saw last year, where they have a couple of good wins. They go bowling, they win 6, 7 games, and who knows? They might still end up being that way. but I did not expect them to be dominating teams at the way they have so far. Uh, Number 25 BYU at Colorado. BYU comes away with the 24-21 win. And I mean, this was BYU's like first test, if you really want to call it that. Colorado was a bad team though, so it's hard to call this a test. Um, but they survived it. So shout out to them. Colorado's run defense continues to be atrocious, and they continue to struggle with mobile quarterbacks. Bear Bachmeyer finished with 98 yards on the ground and 179 through the air. BYU as a whole, over 200 yards rushing at nearly 6.5 yards a pop. Um, Colorado jumped out to a 14-0 lead and then could not do much the rest of the game. Nearly half of the yards on offense came in that first quarter alone. Uh, BYU is a pretty good team. Colorado's a very bad team. Those are my takeaways from this one. We still have not seen BYU really tested. This was their biggest test, yes, but not that big of a test. More of like a pop quiz type thing. UCLA 14, Northwestern 17. My preview for this game was yuck. That was all I had to preview this game. And my reaction to the game is yuck. I will say, though, Nico Yamaliava, he gets so much hate, whether it's warranted or not, because you could argue that it's his dad that should be getting more hate. But he does get a lot of hate. And I'm going to give him some credit real quick because he is UCLA's entire offense. Without him, that offense is absolutely nothing. Nico is not what I would consider a mobile quarterback. Does he have the ability to run and use his legs? Yes. But is he a mobile quarterback? No, not by any means. But he is UCLA's leading rusher. And not by like 5 yards, 10 yards, by like 100 yards. He is their leading rusher. He's only got like 200, little over 200 yards rushing through 5 games now, 4 games, 5 games, whatever it is. Again, wouldn't consider him to be a mobile quarterback. He is UCLA's entire offense. I'm going to give him kudos for that. As much hate as he gets, we got to give him some credit. Cincinnati 37, Kansas 34. Cincinnati might be better than I thought they would be this year. They lost a close one to Nebraska and then have been good ever since. Kansas, they worry me a little on defense. Against bad teams, defense has been dominating, but against Mizzou and against Cincinnati, they have not been good. And when you look at a game, yes, the defense should have been a lot better in this one, but very rarely can you look at one specific play or one specific drive and be like, that's where they lost the game. And this is a game that Kansas definitely wishes they had back because they are down 30-27 in the fourth quarter and they are driving. And this offense was able to drive quite easily against Cincinnati all game long. Jalen Daniels fumbles at the 1 yard line and Cincinnati recovers. Now, Cincinnati recovers the ball. They don't do much with it. I think they went like 3-and-out or 4 plays and had to punt it away, whatever it is. They did not do much after they got the ball back or got that turnover. Kansas then gets the ball back, drives right back down the field, scores again, and takes a 34-30 lead. Then they allowed Cincinnati to go 75 yards in 10 plays. Mind you, 10 plays in just a minute 16. That's bizarre. Scored a touchdown and took the lead back, leaving Kansas with only 27 seconds to try and score, which they didn't. And it goes back to that fumble at the 1 yard line. If Kansas does not fumble that ball at the 1 yard line, they go up 34-30. Cincinnati maybe doesn't do anything on that drive, after that touchdown, and then Kansas waltzes right back down the field and scores again. Kansas could have won this game by 2 scores or should have just won this game straight up by 1 score. Unfortunately, they didn't, and they come away with the loss 37-34. They wish they could take that fumble back. Let's just put it that way. Virginia Tech 23, NC State 21. I said after last week that NC State not team totals, but game overs, would be the play moving forward the rest of the season. That's going to be the trend. I could not have been more wrong. I expected Virginia Tech to be able to score 20 plus in this game because NC State's defense is not good. But I did not expect NC State to struggle to move the ball against Virginia Tech because Virginia Tech's defense has also not been good this year. So Congrats, Virginia Tech, on getting potentially your last win of the season, honestly. When you look at the rest of the schedule, every other game they're probably going to lose. They maybe eke out a win, another win somewhere along the way, but this is potentially their last win of the season. Kentucky 13, South Carolina 35. Do not let this score fool you. South Carolina's offense is not back. Yes, they scored 35 points, but yet again, it was either the special teams or the defense that scored half the points for them, essentially. Kentucky had 4 turnovers in this one, 2 of which were returned for touchdowns. So there you go, 2 defensive touchdowns. And the third gave South Carolina a relatively short field, which they took advantage of. If you take away Lenora Sellers, which, and I said it going into the season that I was worried this was going to be the case, that Lenora Sellers was going to be their entire offense. Every concern I had for this South Carolina offense has come true. Lenora Sellers is the offense in this one, on this team. If you take him away, the run game is absolutely atrocious for South Carolina. Less than 3 yards per carry in this game without Sellers. South Carolina is not back after this win. South Carolina's offense is not back after this win. Every South Carolina win or game this year is completely in where they score like 35 points. You can't let it fool you because it's because either the special teams was scoring or the defense is scoring. It's really what it comes down to. I'm saying it right now, South Carolina loses at least 5 more games this season. Okay. This is going to be very short, very brief. I want to get through it because it's painful. I don't love it. Betting recap. I made a promise and I broke that promise. And because of that promise, I'm debating on suspending myself. We will know more later in the week as to whether or not the decision has been made to suspend me. Still working all the details out on that. But I went 1-4 this weekend, and I made a promise that we would not go 1-4 again. So right now, the committee is deciding on whether or not I'm going to be suspended or how long I will be suspended for. We are just going to leave it at I was 1-4. You could argue I should have been at least 2-3 or 3-2. There was a few that just wish we could have back. Tennessee over 17.5. Kicker misses a terrible field goal that would have won that bet in the first half. Pitt plus 4.5. Again, just they were winning a good chunk of that game and then just completely blew it. We were close, but close does not cut it. So, committee will come to a decision later this week on whether or not I am suspended for 1 week. All right. Finishing with my favorite segment, and I think everybody's favorite segment, I would assume, I would hope. Dude, are you high? And this is one that I try not to. You could put this person up or these people up every single week for dude, are you high? And I try not to do it because it just feels like that's easy pickings. It's lazy because again you can do this every week. But my goodness, I can't wait any longer. I have to put them as the winner. The referees in the Wake Forest Georgia Tech game. Georgia Tech's losing. I think it was just by 3. Wake Forest has the ball. It's 3rd and 5. It's in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter. Wake Forest hard count. Georgia Tech player jumps off sides, and like any somewhat decent center does when that happens, they see the guy jump off sides, they snap the ball immediately. And then Robbie Ashford, like you know, any decent quarterback, somewhat decent, even average quarterback knows that's a free play. Let's take a shot here. And the shot connects. Fantastic. We are, burying Georgia Tech in this one. If the shot doesn't land, it goes out of bounds, it lands incomplete, it gets intercepted. So what? Georgia Tech jumped off sides. That's an automatic first down, game over, essentially. Essentially, we can't actually say it would be game over, but it was looking like it would be game over because you get that free play. Only problem is refs did not throw the flag, and I'm sorry, it wasn't one of those things that, well, maybe the Georgia Tech defender got back in time. He did not. If you watch that play, he was so clearly offsides. You have to be blind to not see that. It almost feels like it was on purpose that they didn't call that penalty. Um, because yeah, Robbie Ashford gets the snap, and what does he do? He launches it deep, like any decent quarterback would do. It went out of bounds, whatever, it's fine. But because the refs didn't throw the flag, that play counted, and it's now fourth down. Wake Forest gives the ball back to Georgia Tech, who then drives down, kicks a field goal, ties the game, goes to overtime, wins it. The refs absolutely screwed Wake Forest out of a win. You can't put that blame on anybody but the refs, honestly. You could say, oh, there's a million points in the game that it could have been won or lost by either side. No, the refs lost this game for Wake Forest. Wake Forest did exactly what they were supposed to do in that situation, and the refs screwed them. And it's unfortunate to say, and unfortunate to see. I mean, and like I said earlier, if I wasn't such a Haynes King, Georgia Tech, Brent Key, supporter, fan, whatever you want to call me, I would be on the warpath for Wake Forest in this one because that's just absolutely unacceptable. That is how they lost the game. But unfortunately, that's the way they lost the game. And you just got to ask the referees, dude, are you high? Just, I try not to do the refs because, like I said, every single week you could put the refs in, but there's just one or two times a year where I just cannot help it but put the refs as the winner of Dude, Are You High? And this week was just too egregious to pass up. Anyways, thank y'all for joining me. Um, like I said, bear with me here as I am traveling. I will try to get this out on time. If it doesn't, I do apologize. It will be back to normal next week. But yeah, I'll be back later this week to preview week 6.